All right, folks. It is, I guess technically it's the 3rd of January 2025 because it's past midnight, just a little bit ago, a few minutes ago. But this is In the Image Clothing Company podcast. My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, a company where we address the human body. It's not about clothing, but it's about what clothing is doing to our bodies. So I address, and we as a company, these chronic patternings. I'm actually going to move this camera back a little bit closer to where it was. But yeah, we get into chronic patternings within our bodies, and it happens from things that are placed on us physically, being clothing. So I'm going to do just a little, as I do with the podcast, right? I'll do a little rundown of what our company is, and then we'll get into the podcast episode. So we address the body through clothing, as I'm saying. Pants need to sit entirely above the hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear. That way the pants are off of the hips, and the hips have all the motion and mobility they would naturally have. And then having the waistband just slightly higher in the front than in the rear will allow that core to be activated, always. The core would always be activated naturally, unless something was placed onto our bodies, like pulling on our pelvis, which is all that pants are doing when they're placed in wrong locations. Now, the tops that we wear, the seams on top of the shoulders need to sit behind that little bone that's up here, that little bone right at the edge of your shoulders up there. That's actually the other end of your collarbone, and that just allows your shoulders to be in their neutral position. And then for those edge seams of the shoulders right at the very edges, that's where clothing needs to sit. And in addition to that, we have two things that I always say as prerequisites just to allow the body to really have a chance to just be natural and unaltered. Our shoelacing technique, you can find that wherever you find In the Image Clothing Company. There's many ways to find us online, being 2025. Included with the technique is tying your laces over toward the inside evenly on both feet to allow for an even foundation traveling up. And then the second prerequisite is to remove all tags from clothing. That does include the tongues of the shoes, and they're kind of a little bit difficult to get out sometimes. So if you just put slits into them or roughen them up with a knife or scissors or whatever you use, but being placed right on top of your foot, right on your ankle, you need to be able to dorsiflex your ankle and lift your toes. That's what dorsiflex would be, lifting the toes up. So that's what we do with clothing, plus much more, but that's a little baseline for you. Now, this is the podcast. We have three sides of things. The podcast, here, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We have In the Image Clothing Company Music, where we make music and help people with instruments, with setups, and allowing their bodies to work while playing instruments. And then we have the main company with the anatomy of the human body and clothing. So, cool. Yeah. I'm going to talk about something in this video that I think most people have caught on to by now, but I want to be very clear about it. All that we're doing is getting our bodies back to natural. We're different than any other company out there trying to get the body of the human being to do something. Our whole thing is to stop restricting our bodies, get our bodies from their state of being so altered for so many years to just being unaltered and just working how they were designed. So, little Frank the guitar here. This is what you'll see at this time period when you're looking at In the Image Clothing Company music. Frank the guitar now, if you're just listening to this podcast in audio form and you can't see it, don't feel like you're missing out on anything. That's okay. But Frank is just a small guitar, small enough to where my hands can be in the proper location to play him. And there's a lot that I do within the setup to just allow it to work for my body. And within In the Image Clothing Company music, I have videos on setups for guitars. But it's always just getting back to natural. The goal is natural. So with every item of clothing that we wear, ideally it's 100% natural. Cotton is pretty much what I wear in everything. These two shirts that you see, again, if you're watching this, if you're listening, don't worry about it, but just wearing two shirts. And they're both 100% cotton. These pants that I'm wearing are 100% cotton. Not every single thing that I have is, and it's kind of something you got to be pretty darn intentional about to be able to do that. But ideally we do, because our bodies are natural and they only mesh with natural things. So we're going to talk about so many things just as we go and grow as a company and a community, and really this whole like familial thing that we have here that's just going to get bigger, because the things we discuss will just apply to people forever. So it doesn't matter how long it like quote unquote takes to get off the ground, still applies forever. So we're going to talk about things as we go, and always like the same things: eating and how to do that naturally for the body, the positions, the things that we store our food in, the type of food that we eat, but mostly the way that we put it into our bodies, because that's just something that actually has like a proper way that it happens, and most of us don't do that. I didn't do it proper for pretty much all my life up until very recently. So we will also talk about, obviously, if you just hear our company name, clothing. Definitely talk about clothing always. We will talk about everything that comes to anything and anything that comes to everything. The materials that we store our things in and that we hold, because as I've mentioned a lot, sometimes we use what we call topical creams and place them onto our skin to soak into us to try to heal the inside of us. So if something that we're just labeling as a cream, quote unquote, is going into our skin, then anything that's placed onto our skin is going into it to some degree. It really just does. And clothing is the big one. So because it's always on us the whole time we put it on, and then it's on you until you take it off. There's nothing else in our life that we have that close of contact with, and that's why that's our name, In The Image Clothing Company, because we don't only talk about clothing, but it's like the main thing, because to our bodies and their relationship with this earth and then this man-made world that we have, clothing is the closest connecting thing to our bodies. It really is, out of anything that could possibly even be talked about ever in this life. So yeah, it's always just natural. That's the goal. There's no, because we're not going to like run out of ideas of like trying to make the company more innovative or something, because that's exactly what I'm saying, is it's about taking things away. So as far as man-made things, now it's really cool to be able to see, well, you don't have to think anything about this being cool or not, but for me, it's awesome. And I think that it's cool for others because I am the founder of this company. But we're allowed to see, and all this was strategic, not planned by me. Very, very, very small amounts of anything that has been this company, and probably will continue to be that way the whole time that this is what it is, have been planned by me. It's not me. I'm praying through things and doing things the way that I'm being guided. But I started making videos, like main company side of things, videos, before I was as out of these patternings, that these universal chronic patternings that we get into because of clothing, as I am now. Meaning you can physically, well, not physically, you can visually see my physical body's transformation through the time period from when I very first started making these videos that are available for people that are not just who I'm like intimately like next to you showing you, but like just looking online, finding In The Image Clothing Company, the very start of it, the whole humble beginning part of it, until always, you can see the difference in my body. And it's not just because I matured, because I got to some certain age and I physically changed. I'm 25. I mean, my body's been pretty well the same for, I don't know, 5 years at least. The reason I'm saying it like that is because it's the whole proof is in the pudding thing. The proof is in me as the founder. I can't sit here and try to preach something because it's just something that's happening. It's not something I can try to make up or try to lie about or try to stretch. And it's not something you have to buy. We will have clothing available, but it's not about buying our clothing. It's crazy, man. There's not many people out there nowadays that are giving things for free. And that's what's really nuts about it. Because all we're giving is information. All we're giving is truth. Centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ is the only way we're going to really actually have that happen. And that's the only way that anything's going to actually matter. That's the only way that anything's actually going to last. That's the only way we're ever going to be fulfilled. And that's the way that we can help every single person because it's universal. So, yeah, because we don't charge for anything. I don't know how things are going to look necessarily down the road. And I'm kind of picturing maybe like having, I don't know what title to put on it, but almost like a seminar where, yeah, we can meet up and you pay a fee to come and like hear me speak about things, and we'll actually be together in a group. And that's a way that we're going to be able to kind of advertise, but I don't want to say that in like a business sense necessarily. I just mean advertise as far as share and spread, because then we're in person, and that makes it more of a personal thing. So things like that we might charge for because we got to organize that whole thing. And if you ever purchase our clothing, you'll be spending money for that. But we just want to have gosh, man, I've talked about this a little bit, and we'll just continue to have this approach to it. There's a lot of people that don't feel like they have family, and there's a lot of people that don't have family that they can be around. And I want this whole thing to be a big family. In the Image Clothing Company, the family. Since the very beginning, I've said it's more of a community than a company. I said that within my launch video. That was on the 23rd of September 2024 when we launched In the Image Clothing Company, like when I officially stated that we are this. And within that video that I made, standing in that field where all these foundational first videos have been made, I said that this is community. So I feel like it's more of like the approach that people have toward nonprofits. And I don't even know how like exactly what you define as a nonprofit. So I don't know how to really phrase that other than like my view toward it, the way that people have their organizations set up to where they're just doing it to help people and to share things and to bring people together. That's really what In the Image Clothing Company actually is. So, because as I'm saying right now this whole podcast episode here is about getting back to natural. The goal is just the way that our bodies were designed. So you don't do anything, you stop doing the altering to the mechanical machine that is our bodies. And we just show how to do that. But what I'm saying is but the reason I was saying that is because I mentioned how you have the potential to see some of those very, very first early videos back in like the time period that I said we founded this and launched this, and compare them to my physical body's function. Not about how much fat content or muscle mass there is. I always say those things come and go. But the position and the actual functionality, you have the potential to be able to see the contrast there. And the reason I'm saying that kind of again is because I haven't used any quote unquote In the Image Clothing Company clothing. It's not about having some special clothing that I'm like harboring and you have to purchase from us. I've only done modifications to things that I've purchased, and they've almost all been used clothes. So that's what I mean when I say this is something that is eternal. Something that doesn't matter if it takes 8 years. That's just a random number, but it could be even more, or, the next week, like any time period at all, for it to like what we would consider as quote unquote getting off the ground, it's already off the ground in the sense of it's already being documented. My own life has already been changed by these things. So yeah, it's just about getting back to natural. And all we need for that is understanding of what's causing our bodies to be unnatural. And we live in a modern world. We talk about within the gospel the separation between living on this earth and living within the world. There's that scripture verse that I reference all the time, and I will all the time within In the Image Clothing Company, that we are commanded to be in the world and not of the world. Because we're here and we're around all these things, but we're not taking part, ideally, right? If we're doing the best that we can to just be intentional, we're not taking part in worldly things. And so we're like not actually of the same world as a lot of these people, right? But we're within the same place. Because our focus as Christians, as disciples of Jesus Christ, is on eternal life. It's not about this life at all. But we've been given this body to go through this life in this probation, and we need to just take care of it. The only way you can actually take care of your body is by keeping it as natural as you can. Because it's only going to work correct the way that it was designed. Any alteration to that by us human beings who didn't design it is just going to actually hinder its ability to do its thing. So, Frank the guitar, man, I'm really excited. I am feeling a little bit different about the company at this point. Not that things have to change, but on my end, it's just weird because I was used to going over to the park just about every single day and filming these videos. Usually how blank, usually within that blank was an item of clothing affects body mechanics, or within the Truth Behind series, talking about parts of the body or movements that our bodies do and that are common to do nowadays, but unnatural. And now that I'm not going over there to make those videos, it's winter here in Utah, the United States of America, and it's pretty cold out there. So I'm probably not going to be making very many, if any at all, videos over there throughout the winter. So since we have three sides of this company, and since I got Frank the guitar about 2 weeks ago, things are kind of changing. And that's not something like be worried or expect something different or don't expect anything, because I'm just commenting on what's actually just in the moment happening, not my intention for going forward. For me, it's different because I definitely love music. I'm definitely supposed to be making music, and I'm doing that again. And it's been at least quite some months since I've made any kind of music. So I'm self-taught with guitar. I'm self-taught with pretty much anything with music and singing. The only thing that I ever had music lesson-wise was I played trumpet in 7th grade. I think it was 6th and 7th grade. And I actually played a cornet. It's basically a trumpet, but it's just a little bit smaller. Same length of tubing, but they just wind it tighter. So that's actually the only music lessons pretty much at all that I've had throughout my entire life. But I'm really, 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 really good with music. And it's surprising me. I sat down today with Frank, the guitar, and I wrote some songs, and I can sing, and I've never been taught or like had any kind of coaching with it. So it's just really cool. And that's what I'm kind of almost setting in stone right now. I mean that. So I'm going to sit on it for a second. We will always have three sides of this company. There's a lot of symbolism within In the Image Clothing Company, things that I didn't plan, but we have three sides to this, the Trinity. So music, podcast, human body / clothing, right? Those things go hand in hand, those last two that I said. Now, stuff I didn't plan. I didn't plan any of this at all. I did not. So what I'm saying is no matter how much focus seems to be going to like one of the thirds of the company at certain times, or for like a good amount of time, and then it kind of switches or something, if it seems to be like that, we're just doing what we do when and as we're prompted to. So that's really cool to me. Yeah. I'm just really grateful. I have a lot to share because I've said this before, and it's on both ends. I love to talk, but I love to just actually have good, real, meaningful, deep, informational, true conversation. But I do not, in the absolute slightest, like pointless small talk. I don't like talking to someone, hi, where are you from? How you doing? Where did it? And I don't want to be mean, but I'm not being mean. I just don't like that. It's a waste of time. It is an absolute waste of time. So it's funny how there's like this whole contrast, because I can say that, I'm like, I love to talk, and I do. And I have a company where I do that on all three sides of it, through singing with a guitar or any kind of informational stuff within that. And the main company side of things, that's what I do, is I discuss all the anatomy and the clothing things. And then here, this is a podcast. That's what you do, is just talk. So the whole company is a place for me to talk. That's really what makes this what it is vocalization. So yeah, just really cool. One thing that's also really cool is I grew up, I like to say that I grew up doing it, but really it was once I got to be like 17 years old. And then from that point on for years, I freestyle rapped. And I would drive my little car, had a little, four-wheel drive car in high school. And then all my cars were four-wheel drive except for a little truck I had this year. Well, I guess last year, 2024. But I'd be just driving around playing instrumental beats and freestyle rapping, telling stories through just lyrics over a beat. And I just remember the torment that I was in physically, and I couldn't breathe, and my whole body hurt, and my neck and my voice and my stomach, and my whole body just hurt, but because I'd be doing it for hours a day. But I was wearing oversized shirts, I had tags within clothing, I was sitting within a car with a seatbelt. I didn't know how to even properly set up a car, if you will, as far as I have a video for the main side of the company titled How Driving Affects Body Mechanics. I didn't know that kind of stuff back then, and I was also pretty much always holding my phone while I'm driving. Hey, don't arrest me, but really filming myself freestyle with with the beats playing in the car. And almost always, except for 2 years of my driving existence, since I had my own cars, I was driving in a manual transmission, so I'm pressing the clutch and shifting with my hand, but also filming and trying to keep flowing over the beat without any pauses. And man, I went through a lot of physical torment's the word that I want to use. I just don't want to feel like I'm just using that same word over and over again, but that's the word. So I wasn't allowing my body to be anywhere near natural in that time. And it's crazy to approach music now, and I can hold this cute little half-sized guitar. I'm going to say the model number in this. Shout out to Yamaha. It's a Yamaha CGS102A. If you ever hear about Frank the guitar within In The Image Clothing Company music, or any side of the company, that's what he is. It's a small guitar. It allows your shoulders to be in a much more natural position, and your wrists can be a lot more neutral. Your whole body can work better. I'm now wearing clothing that actually fits me, and it's crazy because if I tried to sing in the past and I had never had any lessons, if I was in the same exact time period when I wasn't like the best at singing, but I switched out the clothing that I was wearing that was all oversized and unnatural, and I wore stuff that fit, took the tags out, did things like the dreaded collar seam modification, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't have been in as much torment as I was. And it's really weird that we battle things that we're supposed to be doing, but that's really just how it goes. So, yeah. And I've talked about that, and that's just how it is, you know. Music has been something that I've been on and off with for years. And we seem to always have a really, you know, the potential at least have a big battle with the stuff that we're put here to do. And that's the whole thing, right? Is just pushing through and praying through. So what I like to look at is there's certain musicians that you can watch. A lot of times it's islanders, and you can just see that their bodies work well. And I don't want to mention any names specifically. There's some people I really think pretty highly of, but yeah, you can just tell it goes hand in hand. Allowing your body to just be working proper is the only way you're going to make music that is natural, as in comes through you naturally, because when you're playing guitar, it's your flesh, your hands that are making the sounds happen through the guitar. When you're singing, you're basically just breathing and pushing air over vocal cords that cause them to vibrate. So that's what I mean when I say all three sides of this company are always going to be here, because they're all just as much in the Image Clothing Company as each of the other ones. You can't sing natural without having your body working as natural as you can personally get it. You're not going to be able to move your fingers around on the strings of a guitar naturally if you're not allowing your body to just be in its only working position to allow that motion to even happen. So we're just letting our bodies be natural. We're going to talk about eating quite a bit. We're never going to sell anything, right? No supplements, no diet ideas, other than, yeah, I'm vegetarian, and there's reasons to that besides just my own choice, or besides just my own plan from the Father that's not even my choice, but like it's specific to me. There's reasons in addition to that I would recommend vegetarianism, and we'll just talk about this kind of stuff, just stuff that's natural. In all ways, sleeping, how to sleep naturally, and more than just making a video about it, because I have, and we can make more videos about it, and we probably will. I just mean that's not the only thing we're going to do. We're going to really like dwell within this whole thing. Everything that we do is just allowing our bodies to be natural. So yeah, it's going to come down to everything. If you have an occupation and they tell you to wear a certain item of clothing, how to do modifications to that, because you're in it for X amount of hours in a day. We're going to talk about everything that could be anything that relates to the human body's natural workings. We're not selling this information. And that's what's going to actually spread this for the sake of helping, not for the sake of profit. So, natural. Okay? Just about being natural in everything, because it comes down to everything. I think one thing to really hit on a second time is, like I mentioned with the topical cream, anything you place onto your skin, and that's any part of your body. It's not just your hands like we feel like putting lotion on. It's not just your face like some kind of moisturizer. Any part of your body is just as skin as the rest of it. Maybe certain parts of it have pores that open more than others. Anything that we place on us, anything that we interact with at all, even the things that are in our air, like these air fresheners that just squirt into the air when we eat things, and using certain utensils that we're putting into our mouth, because even if you're eating something natural but you're placing plastic into your mouth with the thing that you're eating, all these kind of things, just allowing the body to be natural. It's no kind of belief, no kind of anything besides just truth, unchanging, undisputed, plain and simple. There it is. But sometimes we lose sight of the things that are right in front of our face. I've definitely done that a lot. So yeah, man, I'm so grateful for Frank the guitar. Regardless, every time I talk about him, I keep saying, even if I, right after I say this, I walk out of the room that I'm in currently saying it, and the headstock breaks off, or the neck breaks off, or somehow a hole gets put in the body of the guitar, like, I don't know. Right in this moment, I'm so grateful for it, and that's how we gotta be approaching things, because we don't have control. So, just allowing our bodies to be natural, it's really cool. Because that's what everybody's longing for. Because that's the only way we're actually going to be feeling comfortable, as far as just physically. Not that we should always just seek to be consumed with comfort. That's a whole thing that we'll discuss quite a bit as well. But as far as that is the only way that we ever could be comfortable, is if we're natural. Adding things to the body doesn't help. It just doesn't help. There's so much, man. People just are so far off. I was, and in ways I still am, and in ways I will always have the potential to be. But the amount that I have learned about how lost in this, like we say, the man-made world, really we can picture like just living in the woods, and how would things be at that point? That's what I'm saying about some of these musicians you see, and they just are good at music because their body's just good at working, because it's not restricted to the degree that people that live in a more densely man-made area of this earth are. So a lot of islanders, a lot of people that live in more mountainous places, or, well, it can be any kind of thing. It can be the desert, or it can be, yeah, any kind of like environment. But as far as just less man-made that they're interacting with, they're healthier, they live longer, they recover from things that come up like injuries so much quicker. The systems of their body work better. Their endocrine system, they can just digest things so much more well than a lot of other people within the world. So a lot of this stuff is just things that we're just so out of touch with. And it's not our fault. Because it's not my fault for the things that I was out of touch with. And I'm not blaming anybody else. We're not talking down on people. Sometimes we might be kind of like, I'm going to use the word mocking certain things, worldly things that are unnatural, but if people are taking part in those things, we're not getting after those people if they don't know better, because the reason why again, I'm going to use the word mock those type of things is because we have been in that as well. Anybody who's woken up from being blind to these things, and really that's going to be the people who are a part of In The Image Clothing Company, in whatever way you will be, because that's what we are. We mock these things because now we can look at it like, man, gosh, I remember when I was blank, and then whatever the thing is, it's out of personal experience, just how far off we get as a society. So, yeah, natural. 2025 years ago, it wasn't as hard to see things as they are as it is nowadays. We just have so much man-made distraction, and we have records to read about from 2,000 years ago. I think you can tell why I'm picking that time period specifically, but yeah. that's some people might not know, and I'm not saying that everybody just should know. That's why we're spreading the gospel. Yeah, the gospel of Jesus Christ, our God, Jesus Christ, was born onto this earth in human form 2025 years ago. That's why our calendar is what it is. So things have sure changed. And there's a lot that happened before his time of coming to the earth. And even back then, things were more natural than even in his time. And it just gets progressively man-made. But all this stuff has been prophesied about, and it's beautiful to be able to see that. So we're just spreading the gospel, man. We're just spreading the gospel. A lot of that's going to happen through music as well, on In the Image Clothing Company music. Big gift. So I'm going to wrap this up. We will have clothing available. We're In the Image Clothing Company, after all. So 100% natural materials is what it will always be made out of. Staying centered, fitting correct, just allowing the body to work. Please just only ever purchase In the Image Clothing Company clothing if you have the intent to do it in your size. If you're having the intent to purchase clothing oversized, go purchase somebody else's. Our whole point is allowing the body to work. That only happens if we can get our clothing to fit us as correct as we can within our own situations. So, yeah, like I said, it's the 3rd now of January 2025. This is In the Image Clothing Company podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. And stick around, check out the other 2 sides of our company if you'd like to. And there's no rush here, man. I mean, we're just taking things in as they come. We're just living in the moment. And we're not doing anything different here. It's not like we're taking time out of our lives to make sure that we document things for the company or advance the company. The company is just us. That's the whole thing, is allowing us to be us more easily. So, yeah, just take it as it comes, you know? No rush. No rush. So, thank you.